Good morning, beautiful souls. Well, it's morning for us. I'm not sure what time of the day you're listening, but we are so excited today to be back with you and to dive in. And Lexi, tell us, what are we going to talk about today?
We are talking about the six clairs. And you may have heard there's only five or four or seven, even. I think there's four that are very strong, like more well known. And then there's a few more after that that are kind of like tapping into the five senses, like
Yeah.
taste, smell, that type of thing, hearing. But the clairs are, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, like clairvoyance, which I
Sure.
think is the one that we hear about most often.
Hmm.
And when you're thinking about these, I offer that you don't think about it as like, oh, I need to be a psychic medium to be able
Hmm.
to tap into these abilities. I think society makes us think like, oh, okay, the clairs, like if you're clairvoyant, you can see and hear messages from like other worlds or God or spirit or whoever. Maybe.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's an intuitive thing too.
Yeah, I think that that's like the big message today is really just how we can utilize these to get closer to our own intuition, our own feelings on things, how to make decisions better by tapping into this more. And if you've never really like become even aware or know what this is, it's going to be fun. We have a little practice for you at the end, so stay with us. We're going to give you a little action item at the end to dive into this a little bit deeper to figure out which one really resonates with you and your body. But I know for me, Lexi, I feel like being more cognizant of the clairs and which ones resonate with me. It's helped me find more clarity in my next path, help me make decisions better, and just kind of go through my day to day better too.
Yeah, yeah. They're part of your intuition, and everybody's is different. So, but to back up, like we're all intuitive beings. We all have psychic abilities. Now, try not to take that word and like, be tapping into what society says about psychics or mediums. This just means that you have the ability to touch base within your own body of what you need in the moment, what you can see, feel, hear. Like it's your five senses.
Hmm.
And in like the plainest terms, maybe somebody said something to you or asked you to do something and your body like tightened up and you didn't want to do it. It felt yucky, wrong. I don't want this.
Hmm.
Perhaps you did it anyway, or perhaps you listened in. That's just like a very basic example of that was your intuition
Right.
giving you a message. And I think it's a practice to learn how to lean into that.
Strengthen that too. And
Yeah.
it can be strengthened over time. The more you lean into it, the more you listen in and tune in, it just becomes like a better fine-tuned instrument when you
I
play,
love
really.
that. Yeah.
And another like example that's super tangible is if you've ever like met somebody at a party or you cross paths with someone and you're like, I don't know, I just have a weird feeling about that person, or I get a creepy vibe. I think as females, like we tend to pick up
Mm-hmm.
on these things a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more. But I mean, all people, men and women, have these, intuitive natures that we can tap into more closely than others. But going back to women's intuition
Mom's
mom's
intuition. Yeah.
intuition so incredibly powerful
Mm-hmm.
and is sort of our compass. So that's sort of how I've looked at it as like my compass to tell me when I'm making a decision that feels in alignment with me, where I'm at, where I'm headed. So let's dive in.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, so starting with clairvoyance. So this is just clear seeing. This is one that we hear about the most. It does not have to be that you are seeing a ghost in the room with you. Okay, it can be just about a visualization in your mind,
Hmm.
trusting and knowing that this thing that you're seeing is actually obtainable or real,
Hmm.
and just seeing it in your head. So, like for me, this is one that's really strong. I have never seen a spirit, I'm going to say. I do not have that ability. I know somebody who does. So her clairvoyance is different than mine. For me, it's being able to meditate. And if you've been listening in, you know that I have this ability. And I can literally see down to, if I'm looking at a flower in my brain, I can see every little piece of pollen. Like I can just see it in my head. And so meditation for me is a visual experience.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm even just stepping back and listening to you, as I know you, Lexi, and what you do for work is an interior designer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is just such a beautiful example of you being clairvoyant and you being having the ability, this enhanced ability to visualize, to picture, to imagine, to see all the little details, but that also has been a path that you've chosen for your career and what you do on a day-to-day life. So like what a beautiful pairing of that too. So I love that.
Thank you. I mean, that's a great example. I can walk into somebody's home and see what needs to change.
Yeah.
I can just see it in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't necessarily have a different ability where I have like a voice in my head telling me, oh, put this sofa here. Like, no, I just see it.
Yeah.
That's just where I'm at. So that's clairvoyance.
And simply put, I don't know, I just see it. That might be the feeling that you have once you get
Yeah.
more in tune with it.
Yeah, and it's a great tool if you are clairvoyant and this is resonating with you in any way. You can close your eyes and see an apple pretty clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Then use this as a tool for manifestation. You know, in a meditation, visualize what it is that you want to achieve. Like take that with you into your manifestation practice, and it's pretty wild and exciting how it can change things.
Yeah. Yeah. And even someone who isn't more clairvoyant like myself, I fall under some of the other categories, but it is an area that I am wanting to be more in tune with and trying to lean in to improve. So I practice visualization where I'm trying to see all the little details. And it, Lexi and I were just talking, it does come harder for me to be able to see all of those pieces and puzzle pieces and how they fit together. But it's a practice like anything, right?
Yes, and you have other abilities that are not as strong as
Right.
mine. So I think it is a matter of understanding what works for you and just allowing that to lead you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what's the next one?
The next one is clairaudience. So clairaudience is hearing. This is where, like I just said a few minutes ago, somebody might hear voices in their head, and it's not necessarily the same. It's like the same where I'm like, I don't see a person in the room. They don't necessarily hear a person in the room, but they have this ability to hear messages. And every now and then it might be a message in like somebody else's voice. Or I've heard people where it's like the message comes in my left ear when it's a message from spirit, but my right ear when it's my own ego.
Wow, that's extremely in tune.
I know that's very advanced.
Wow, yeah.
But that like they got to that point through a practice of understanding, okay, if I'm listening to this voice or this ear or that ear, like how does this apply to my life and what's right? And
wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
I know.
Yeah, that's deep. I feel like too, I've heard people say like, oh, God told me, or I just feel like I got this message. And I've even had deeper conversations with them. Like, what do you mean? Someone told you? Like, well, no, not someone didn't actually tell me. I just heard this message. And so if you ever feel like someone's trying to tell you something, that is a good sign that you're leaning more towards that one.
So if you are, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like you're driving home from school pickup and you hear this voice out of nowhere that's like, take the scenic route today, or like, don't take the highway. There are like these weird angelic stories where things like this happen, where they were like, oh, I just heard this voice and it was like, it prompted me to go a different way home. And next thing they know, they hear that there was a huge pileup on the freeway.
Right.
And they would have been on that freeway. So
power of leaning in.
Lean in, listen to your intuition. It's there for you for a reason.
Absolutely. We were all given it the gift. We just have to figure out which one resonates with us and keep leaning into that one.
Yes. Okay. The next is claircognizance. So this is just like a clear knowing. It is just this gut feeling of like, I know this isn't going to happen, or I know this person is like how you were saying earlier, I know this
Mhm.
person's maybe not who I want to be spending my time with. Yeah, I have this pretty strong. You do too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, claircognizant and clear sentient,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I'm like, I always say that one incorrectly. But yeah, I agree with that as well. It's just like, I don't know, you can't really explain it sometimes. You just know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know how else to explain it other than it's just a feeling that comes in, and you just feel like you have a very clear idea or knowing of what the answer should be or the next step should be.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really know why you feel that way. You just feel that way. And that would say that that's sort of your superpower.
Yeah, it is a superpower, but you have to listen into it because otherwise it's kind of like, what's the point? But I don't know how you listen in. So I have an example that I have two that happened recently where I was in the airport terminal at my gate and I was headed on a trip and I just was sitting there at the gate and I was like, yeah, I know I'm not going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I just had this ping in my body, and it wasn't a message that I saw or heard or anything. I just knew I was like, I'm not going to get there. Well, the next 48 hours was me in the airport trying to get there. I got on the plane, and in my connection state, I got stuck there. Like I just knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then traveling again a few weeks ago, I was packing my bags and I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like they're gonna lose a bag.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
did.
Yeah.
I just knew like
Yeah.
24 hours before, which is so bizarre.
That is wild.
I can't
Yeah.
predict the future, guys, but I didn't do anything about it either. I still checked my bag and I still got on the airplane. Like, what else am I supposed to
Right,
do?
exactly.
But those are things, those were just like little signs to me. I took them as breadcrumbs, like, okay, listen, Lexi, you do have this ability to know things. And so trust that. Like instead of worrying about something, like just know that if you know that it's going to be okay, don't go down the rabbit hole of all the ways that it could go wrong.
Right.
Just know.
Yeah, oftentimes you can like try to talk yourself out of knowing.
Yes.
Even though you're like, I just know, but like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I feel like that's not the right way, or maybe you have somebody else's voice or inner voice in your head trying to talk you out of it or make you believe something different, that it then can take you from this place of feeling clear about it, feeling like you know, but then losing that trust within yourself because you then decide to pivot and go a different way.
I have a good example
Yeah,
too,
please share.
even though the ones I just gave, but like if I want to apply this to motherhood,
Mhm.
a mother's intuition is that claircognizance of just knowing what your baby needs.
Yeah.
Why is my baby crying? Like, oh, I know she's hungry. I know
Mhm.
she needs to be fed. I know she's tired. I know he has a weird tag that in his pajamas that's probably bothering him.
Mhm.
Like, these are actually little knowings that are going on, but then society, especially social media, might be saying like, oh, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way, this is wrong, that is wrong. Like, don't listen to any of that. Just trust your mother's intuition.
So powerful, especially for each individual kid too. Nobody will know your kid better than you do. And so I feel like there was about 6 months into my motherhood journey, I was clouded by like, do it this way, then you have to do this, then you have to do this. And I was just so overwhelmed those first like 6 months, I would say, until I just like awoke one day and was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to do what I think that I need to do. And it was a really pivotal moment where at that moment, I feel like I finally let go and just leaned into every little intuitive thing that my son needed at that time. And the rest became a whole lot smoother after that. It was a really, really beautiful experience because I really feel like I can look back to that time and being like, it was really when I let go of the outside noise and just started tuning into like knowing my baby and knowing what my baby needed. And maybe that's a different sleep schedule or a different eating schedule or a different going out schedule, whatever it might be. But even like going back to this one too, because this one's strong for me and applying it to entrepreneurship. When I started my business, I had no idea like how I was going to do or the next 10 steps, if you will. But I just knew that if I just kept moving forward, I just knew it would work. Like I had this weird feeling and I told Robert, like, I'm gonna start a business. And he was like, okay, like wasn't surprised knowing me, right?
Yeah.
Like he was like, okay, but he's heard a lot of business ideas from me, and like I haven't always taken action on all of those. But this one, I was like, I just know that I need to do the work, and I feel like I know that it's gonna be successful and it's gonna be great. And I just knew. And even to this day, I'm like, I have no idea still sometimes what I'm doing to this day on a day-to-day basis. Like I'm kind of fly by my side by the seat of my pants most times, but I just know that if I continue, it's going to be great and it's going to be successful. And I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love that. And that's resonating a lot with me
Mm.
too. So if you have a feeling and you have a knowing that you are intended to start a business, or you are in a rough place of your business, but you know long term, you're just like, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Just trust. Trust
Lean
is the
in.
hardest thing.
Yeah, it's that first leap of faith. It really is that next leap of faith before you talk yourself out of it due to fear or due
Mhm.
to insecurities or limiting beliefs or perfectionism or whatever it might be. If you have that feeling and you just know that it's something you need to do, just do it. Do it. Okay, let's move on.
Okay, the next one, and when you hear four clairs, like these are the primary ones. So clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So if you have this clear feeling, you might be somebody who's very empathetic. Um, or yeah, I think empathy is a big one. So you can feel somebody else's pain or struggle. If you can see somebody's having a hard time, or like the commercial about the dogs who need adopted. I don't know. Like if you can feel that in your body, it brings you to tears. Like you are very clairsentient.
Yeah, I think this one's a really strong one for me personally, alongside the last one. And I feel like it's also like a gut feeling. So, if I pass by, if I'm walking by a person, I'll just get a weird feeling like that constriction or that tightness in my body, or just like something feels really off in my body. I can't explain it, but something just doesn't feel right. I'll notice that too. Or even when this is a strong one for me, like family members that have been further away, um, whether like they're in trouble or they needed something, and in the moment I was like, I just feel like something is going on with that person. Like
Mm.
something is off and something is going wrong. And like the next day they would call me and be like, this is what's going on. I'm like, I knew it. But I also have this weird ability to know when people are in labor, which is hilarious that I ended up in the pelvic health and, birth world, if you will. Because I don't know how many times I've just had feelings in the moment of my friends that were pregnant at the time that I'm like, I think that they're in labor. I'm going to shoot them a quick text and just be like, hey, hope everything's going well. I'm thinking of you. Like, birth is going to be beautiful. And
So
and
cool.
they've responded by like, when you texted me that, I was in labor. This has had like countless times.
That's wild.
Or if people like, I just have been thinking about you, and then they call me,
Right.
or we're like
Yeah.
speaking telepathically to each other. So that was a
Yes.
really, really strong one for me.
You can feel into other people.
Hmm.
That's so cool. I,
Yeah.
I definitely have those empathetic abilities. And like I'm gonna call somebody and they were like, I was literally just thinking about you.
Yeah.
But not nearly as strong as knowing when people are going into labor. That's so
It's
cool.
so weird. I'm like, I just feel like they need love right now, or I just feel like they need a touch point, or
Hmm.
like I can just feel when someone's hurting, maybe even if they're not like with me in the moment or
Oh,
in the
but you are
room.
very strong at it when like we're together.
Mhm.
Like Jessica can tell if I'm having an off day, just like the minute we walk into the same room, she's like, "What's going on?"
Your
I can
energy is
just tell
different.
like your energy's different. So that's clairsentience.
Also, totally called our kids and school administrator.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, she's leaving. I don't know
Mm.
why, I just
That
know.
was clear knowing.
That's clear knowing.
That was clear knowing.
They're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, totally. So back it up.
All right, so
Okay.
we're gonna do the last couple very quickly because I would not say they're like the primary clairs, but they are ones that you can use when you're trying to manifest something. So, you can visualize, but also there's clairgustance, which is clear tasting. So if you're trying to visualize like what $1 million in sales looks like, maybe you're imagining yourself at like a I don't know,
Fine dining
fine
restaurant.
dining experience, eating this meal, celebrating your success, right?
Wow, that's interesting.
And then same for clairsalience, which I hope I say that right, but that's clear smelling. So this one's interesting because, again, you can use it for manifestation. Like, it's the smell of fresh leather in my brand new car. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why I keep applying it to money, but oftentimes we're trying to manifest success, let's be honest. But clairsalience is also people who can like smell their grandmother's perfume, but she's been gone for like 10 years. They're like, oh, okay, I know you're with me, Grandma.
Yeah, that memory comes back in the form of a smell instead of a form of like a voice or a gut feeling or just a knowing that she's in the room. That interconnectedness or closeness or a memory or the future knowings, it will come to you in a form of a smell.
Yeah, perfume,
You
cigarettes,
smell
like,
the beach waves, and you're gonna get a new beach vacation.
Ew, I like that
I
one.
like that one.
I'll try
Salty,
that.
salty waves.
Oh, well, that was fun. So that was just a quick episode for us, just talking about the different clairs. We kind of gave you examples for each one, like how to apply it to life. But I think the biggest thing, if you have a meditation or manifestation practice, take one of these clear feeling, seeing, hearing, knowing, tasting, smelling. Take one of those with you and practice it a little bit deeper. So.
Yeah, that's your action item for this episode. And maybe you don't currently have a practice and you're really just dipping your toe into. And so, what I would invite you to do is just take a moment of silence, whether it's 5, 10 minutes, where you sit in a quiet room, you look around, you're observing your, environment, you're hearing for sounds, you're just trying to experience all of the senses, and then close your eyes and just what comes to you naturally. Or maybe utilizing and leaning into these, like, but you got to thought of a good idea by asking yourself a question.
Yeah.
And then what comes to you first? Is it a gut feeling? Is it a knowing? Is it a smell? Is it a taste? Or is it a sound or a message? Just keep leaning into those. And I think that the more you do, the more you'll get stronger into that intuition.
Yeah, and have fun with it. Flex this muscle all the time. I did it the other night on date night. Like I was like, Garrett was like, how much do you think the bill is? And I closed my eyes and I felt into it and I was $1 off.
Whoa, that's crazy.
I just like saw the number in my mind and I was like, this is the number. And he was like, what? How did you do that?
That's crazy.
So anyway, have fun with it, practice, and don't forget to please leave us a review, leave us a rating, share with your friends. My husband reminded me that we need to do a better job of asking for, we're asking. So thanks.
We'll see you next time.